Sugata Mitra's hole-in-the-wall experiment shows us that learning is self-organizing and self-emergent. Sugata Mitra, he put a camera in the wall in a poor area of New Delhi, India, and a dropout kid, a Huckleberry Finn type of a young man, was curious. And he started playing with the computer, how to use it, started to figure out how to use the computer. Then other kids became interested. In a week's time, poor children in India who didn't know a single word of English, never seen a computer or understand the internet, all had email accounts. And they all had learned enough English words to figure out how to Google and how to do other basic uses of the internet. And Sugata Mitra wasn't even around. All he did was put the camera in a poor wall in a poor area of India and then had a camera just videotape it. And within a week's time, children had understood the internet. They had learned enough English words to be able to sign up for their own email accounts. And they learned it all by themselves. They were self-taught. I know some older folks today that actually take a pride in not understanding anything about computers. Oh, I don't need computer. I don't need to learn that. I've been living without it. I ain't going to use it. But the poor kids in India had taught actually the world something. What the hole-in-the-wall experiment by Sugata Mitra teaches us is that education is self-organizing and self-emergent. You don't need the teachers. The teachers just need to stay out of the way. Be there to make sure they don't get into fights. They can encourage the students, show them, the websites where they can learn history and math and other websites that will teach them knowledge that will help them out in life. Another thing that American public schools do wrong is the lessons that we can learn from the learning pyramid. So if you look at the learning pyramid here, you'll see that the retention levels, what types of tactics can you use in order to teach so that the student will always remember what was taught to them. And there's many ways you can lecture at them, which is mostly, that's been my education. Half my life has been in the schools, and it's been mostly lecture. A lot of people say, well, I learn better on hands-on and actually doing it. Well, actually, experience is how most people learn. When you ride the bike, 75%, when you practice doing it, 75% of the lesson will be learned. 75%, that's almost all of it. When you teach in other people, 90% of it is learned. So if you get students to teach each other, the one doing the teaching is learning, the one that's learning is learning. But in a classroom, there's only one person teaching. And they're retaining 90%. The teacher retains 90% of all that they say. But the students who have to sit there to the long, boring lecture, they only retain 5%. That's not education. 5%, that means you forget 95% of what was lectured at you. And if you didn't even want to be there, if you didn't even like it, you're probably learning even less. 10% is reading. If you was to not even lecture and just give the students books, they would learn more. They would retain more of the lesson plan. Audiovisual demonstration. I think what we need to do, most of it's lecture. What we need to do, the learning pyramid, is use the ones that's on the bottom. Teach others. Get the students to teach others. When the students are teaching each other, they're retaining most of that information. When they're experience. In fact, Albert Einstein says all education is experience and everything else is just information. So when you actually do the thing, when you actually do the science experiment, when you learn how to ride the bike, you actually retain 75% of it. And then this one's fascinating to me. 50% of the knowledge is retained in discussions. So with the lecture, you got an autocrat. Hey, I'm the boss, shut up. Everything that I say is like the word of God. You shut your mouth and you write the notes that I tell you to write, then you regurgitate those notes back to me. That's education. But in fact, by treating people as equals, when you have a discussion, you present what you say, they present what they say, and now you have this new reality that you got to reconcile with. Either you agree with it or you disagree with it. Either way, there is learning, there is growth. You either say, well, I'm totally right. They don't know what they're talking about. Or you say, well, I never looked at it that way. I just learned something. So discussion. If we can get into American public schools, more discussions, more experience, more teaching others, we'll actually have a better education. We'll be strengthening them. And Jean-Jacques Rousseau says, if you make the child strong, they will be good. So the learning pyramid teaches us a lot of things. And so public schools can learn about the learning pyramid instead of lecturing at a bunch of poor kids who's not going to have any social mobility. Actually teach them things that they want to learn, or inspire them to learn the things that you could teach, and make them stronger. Make it to where the knowledge actually retains in their brain, and then they can use that knowledge. Lastly, this brings us to John Green and Salman Khan. Here's a clip of John Green.
I'm John Green. This is Crash Course World History, and today we're going to talk about the end of civilization. Mr. Green, everybody knows civilization is going to end with Y2K. We can't survive the year 2000. Not me from the past. Turns out that we get through that one all right. And we're not talking about monopolies among cable providers or net neutrality. In fact, we're not talking about the end of our civilization, which everyone knows would be brought about by giant transforming robots that can become cars. If you want to learn about the end of our civilization in video form, might I recommend the major American film Transformers Dark of the Moon. Instead, today we're going to talk about the end of a civilization in the ancient Near East at the end of the Bronze Age.
Now, John Green runs Crash Course, and he's got all these history lessons. He has a ton of history lessons, and other lessons too about civilization and a whole bunch of stuff. He's mostly a history teacher, but this shows that John Green only has to do one lecture about the American Revolution, put it out there, and now it's there for the end of all time. You don't ever have to, John Green never has to lecture about the American Revolution ever again. It's out there for anybody who wants to learn it. He can add on to it, he can add some information to it, but by educating the public through the internet videos, we're saving time. With John Green, actually a U.S. history teacher could just make all the students watch all the videos. And we learned through the learning pyramid that audio visuals has a higher retention rate. So if the teacher would just sit off to the side and just air John Green videos the entire time, the students would learn more. So they would actually get a better education. The students would get a better education, and then instead of having just some person, autocratic, totalitarian, fascist, just lecture at them all day long, just talking at them, not with them, talking at them. By putting his lectures online, never again will John Green have to lecture any of those points. It's there for the world to see instead of saving notes and repeating oneself over and over again. Now anybody can educate themselves. It's not even limited to just the school children. So people at home could educate themselves. And self-education is the most powerful form of education. Salman Khan does something very similar. Here's a clip of Salman Khan.
Its collection of videos. So before I go any farther, let me show you a little bit of a montage. So the hypotenuse is now going to be 5. This animal's fossils are only found in this area of South America, a nice clean band here, and this part of Africa. We can integrate over the surface, and the notation usually is a capital sigma, National Assembly. They create the Committee of Public Safety, which sounds like a very nice committee. Notice, this is an aldehyde, and it's an alcohol. Start differentiating into effector and memory cells. A galaxy. Hey, there's another galaxy. Oh, look, there's another galaxy. And for dollars is their $30 million plus the $20 million from the American manufacturer. If this does not blow your mind, then you have no emotion.
Salman Khan came up with the Khan's Academy. And Khan's Academy uses the same principles John Green. Only Salman Khan covers so much more. Salman Khan is actually trying to make this into a business, and he's selling his idea to alternative schools. And he covers, so much more topics. So basically the same concept as John Green. But Salman Khan dabbles in not just history, but engineering, mathematical principles, STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And these are the areas where America is slipping. We're no longer number one in the world. We're like 37. But with Khan's Academy, anybody at any time can master engineering or calculus or anything else they're curious about. So with the internet, we have the capacity for completely changing education to where one can learn the concepts prior to a classroom, and then when they go to the classroom, they could use those other forms of educational tactics, discussion, teaching others, experience at the bottom of the learning pyramid, and have a greater retention. They can argue, debate, present their arguments to others, try to convince other people of what they're saying is true. Salman Khan actually, like I said, he sells his ideas to the other schools, but his basic governing philosophy is that education and knowledge should be free. We got the internet. It's a Gutenberg printing press revolution times 8 billion, because every person, well, anybody who's got the internet has the capacity of typing something and showing the world what they just typed. They can make something, show the world. So why, this Salman Khan and John Green will revolutionize education. They already have revolutionized education. I don't know if they're making enough money. Maybe they could get enough money on the YouTube views. But Salman Khan's always asking for money, and John Green is too, to donate money. But that's, they don't have to repeat themselves. The thing is right out there. People can learn the concepts and the ideas. And Jean-Jacques Rousseau says that by making our children strong, they will be good. So by doing this, we'll actually be teaching our children, our Kentucky children, our American children, like the Prussians were teaching the top 0.5%. And what a great lesson. We're all kings and queens anyways. And our children are princes and princesses. Right now, Kentucky has common poverty. But we should have common wealth. We're all Kentuckians. We're all Americans. So we should start acting like it. Respecting individual freedom. And introducing civics and democracy into the classroom. So it turns out Pink Floyd 50 years ago was right.
Sarcasm in the classroom.